This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about the I Am Curious collection, covering Yellow and Blue from 1967 and 1968, respectively, directed by Vilgot Sjoman. That's right, folks.
Who?
Sjoman.
Who?
Sjoman. No, don't mistake that. Sjoman. Sjoman. No, Sjoman.
Did you look that up?
I did.
You nerd.
That's right. So, first up, RJ, this is a collection that's been kind of on my radar for a while.
Okay.
It's more because of its like...
Why?
I don't know. It's got that interesting title, I Am Curious, Yellow, and I Am Curious, Blue. What does it mean? What is this thing from Sweden?
We are too.
What is this product? What is this thing that we're all about? It's European and sexually liberating. And it has
It's what? Sorry?
Sexually liberating, and was
It's for you, maybe.
and was seized by American customs for being too much sexiness. Yes. So we're gonna get there. So I think these are some real RJ picks. I Am Curious, Yellow. A synopsis here from Letterboxd. Lena, age 20, wants to know all she can about life and reality. She collects information on everyone and everything, storing her findings in an enormous archive. She experiments with relationships, political activism, and meditation. Meanwhile, the actors, director, and crew are shown in a humorous parallel plot about the making of the film and their reactions to the story and each other. Nudity, explicit sex, and controversial politics kept this film from being shown in the U.S., while its seizure by customs was appealed.
Sure.
So that's...
Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah. So, RJ, do you know what the yellow and blue is in reference to?
I think it was a gimmick to sell movies.
Well, it's the colors of the Swedish flag. It's apparently...
And what else?
In Vilgot, he says that these movies should be viewed as one movie.
I mean, is there any world where someone would watch I Am Curious Yellow and not have the intention to watch I Am Curious Blue? Like, if you just flat out didn't like Yellow, I guess you would stop. But
which is a fascinating thing I noticed on Letterboxd, where over 2,000 people have seen Yellow and less than 1,000 have seen Blue.
I get it.
I get it. That's the conversion rate, I guess. That's the winning factor of Yellow. Some people might pick up this set and go, they watch Yellow, and then they go, I'm good. I think I'm good here.
Yeah. And yeah, all I mean is, like, I think the intent to watch both would of course be there for everyone. Like, so him saying it's like, well, you should watch both of them as one movie. It's like, yeah, no shit, man. But I think it makes like it's a nice breaking point though, where it's like a nice natural stop where you're like, well, okay. Like, if you're not into it, you can just be like, I don't need to watch the other one.
Yeah.
I got the gist.
Okay. So, talking about this year film project. So this movie is its approach to cinema is to be not exactly bourgeois, I would say. In fact, it's trying to break down those.
Bougie?
It's not bougie, RJ. It's about breaking down those barriers, those things of comfort. They don't want you to be lulled into any sense of like the cinema, into the cinematic. It's you want to use the tools of cinema to tell you and make you think about things differently. It is it's kind of engaging, not necessarily in critical theory or anything like that. It is engaging in experimentation.
Critical
I guess
inquiry?
No. There's a whole thing. You could go buy a introducing critical theory book and read about that, and you get yourself a little taste of that Foucault and such. All these things that I've read and left behind in my life after discovering the kind of sham that is academia.
They don't seem to have helped you at all.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I work there, but
true.
Yeah,
but difference of opinion.
So this movie, RJ, for me, the most engaging part, I guess, was the what people call the vox pop stuff, where it's the woman on the street asking the general population of Sweden their thoughts on issues of the day, really banging on this notion, one that I guess I talk about in my day-to-day life about this issue of class. And it's like in Sweden, which is kind of like held up nowadays still to this day, it's kind of like this socialist state of like where it's like success, like, or what do you want to call it, social democracy, where
Sure.
society is like it's equal and like there's super high taxes, but people aren't like just like out on the street dying. Like the government will help people more or less, to more rather than like figure it out. Get your job at McDonald's and figure it out,
man.
What's that? Controlling the spending. Like, oh no. You just Anyways, so this movie just touches on these like asking people, or this character Lena, but it's like this actress playing this character asking people at like events on the street, what do you think? Is there still class? Is there class still in Sweden? And more often than not, people go, no, of course not. There's no class here. And it's like, that's not true at all. But when they're pressed on it, they go, well, maybe it's got to be that way. You're like, wait, but at first glance, you go, no, there's no class system here. It's preposterous. Even to this day, RJ, I would posit class is a very, very real thing. In fact, it might be the only thing. Perhaps it's like the only thing that should be paid attention to, and perhaps things like sex and race, gender are all distractions to that one major point that should be addressed before anything else. But
I mean, some would argue that all of those subsidiary things attribute to the class system, Jarrett. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not one to philosophize or to spout,
politicize, make strong politics.
Allow me to politicize for a minute, but some people who are perhaps passionate about said things would argue that they are all together, entwined in a delicate relationship of class, gender, race, religion, diarrhea. I had to throw that in there to,
keep it real.
Just mellow things out a little bit here. But as I said, I'm not going to politicize on that. But I believe there are others out there. I believe there's others out there who would gladly pontificate on such things. Oh, yes. And I'm sure if you go to the Letterboxd and find reviews of this movie, I'm sure some of them do.
For certain.
I'm sure some of them do. Anyways, you were talking.
I was talking something. I was going on about things. So
sure you were.
So for me, like the eye on the street level thing with like interviewing people of the time, you watch it and you go, oh, people talk the exact same way now as they did back then.
Sure do.
Things really haven't evolved that much. In this, I'm Curious Yellow and Blue, we'll just say, because they're essentially one continuous thing. Just two separate films released separately within a year of one another with the same actors, the same director, same plot, I'm going to put in big quotes.
Big quotes, eh?
Big quotes, plot.
Yeah.
Things haven't really changed or evolved. This movie, though, is engaged in a window of time where you had student revolt and marches and protests. The 60s were very much alive with political activism, now referred to as social justice. And this film emerges completely out of that. So it's kind of like a cultural artifact and maybe should be best viewed that way rather than as a movie that one pops on, sit back to watch people boning in like...
Doing what? Sorry?
Boning.
Oh. God. Okay, keep going.
Gazing into one another's genitals and pubic hair.
Doing what?
Gazing.
Oh my God.
That's not what all this movie's about. But that's what definitely sold this to a lot of people who are like, oh, what are these Swedish people up to? What are these crazy Euros up to? They're just making movies about themselves having sex? That's pretty wild. But you got to think, like, that probably was pretty wild for movie goers at that point in time where...
Sure.
Like, you just didn't go see these things in movies, so it's like, oh, what a novelty. And then, of course, when the government steps in and says, you can't watch this, it just makes people want to see it all the more. And then, of course, inevitably, it goes through court cases where you go, well, we can't really deny people what they want, and it's freedom of expression, so have at her. And audiences did. And then they were watching this and would have been, oh...
What do you think their opinion was? Do you think the people who were like fighting for this
Well,
sex flick were? Do you think they were pleased with the what they got?
let's read what on Wikipedia, the critical reception. Contemporary. Initial reception to Curious Yellow was divided. Vincent Canby of the New York Times referred to it as good, serious movie about a society in transition, and Norman Mailer said he felt like a better man after having seen it. Conversely, Rex Reed described the film as about as good for you as drinking furniture polish, and Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times lambasted it as a dog, a real dog, and stupid and slow and uninteresting.
I have the Roger Ebert review in front of me here, Jarrett.
Yeah.
He's talking of pious pornographers, anti-erotic. 2 hours of the movie will drive thoughts of sex out of your mind for weeks.
Ebert knows about titties.
He knows about them huge tits. He's really on about how he doesn't think this movie is erotic or sexy at all.
And I don't disagree. Like I don't.
This is a rare confluence with me and Mr. Roger Ebert, where it's like, yeah, I agree. I don't think this movie is sexist or sexy either. No. He does talk. His opening line is, "If your bag is shelling out several bucks to witness phallus in brackets flaccid, then I Am Curious is the flick for you."
Do you think Ebert went into this movie with like a big raging hard on, and then, I didn't even get a jerk off by the time the credits rolled?
I think so. I think even more interesting is on Roger Ebert's page, all the comments are from 6 years ago. So I don't think anyone's watched this movie in 6 years.
I don't know if a lot of people go out of their way to check this one out. So, I mean, okay, this movie fits on a... so, did you think of Loves of a Blonde at all while watching this?
Nope.
No? Okay, that movie was on my mind.
Not really.
The black and white.
I think I liked that movie.
Yeah, the blondes, just like the relationship of this girl being taken advantage of by this dude. Who the musician who travels around, and like she thinks like she's liberated, and she's like, yeah, I slept with a bunch of guys, now I can pick on whoever I want. And then she like, oh, this guy's like doing this thing around me, and she's like, the human emotion kind of comes into these things about like when philosophy and approach kind of come in. It was reminding me a lot of like the same thing when I was watching that Bob and Carol and Alice and Ted movie I was mentioning earlier.
The Bob and Doug movie you watched?
Yes, on Criterion Channel.
Strange Brew.
Okay. It's the same thing. Cool. Like this window of time, these movies come out within 2 years of one another, and you have a society in transition. And this is a movie that's going to...
Where are they transitioning from?
I don't know. I know they're sexually transmitting things.
Oh my God. Jarrett.
So yeah, this, I'm just talking about Yellow, I guess. We got Vilgot Hurman. He's in this, rocking that Hutterite beard.
He is absolutely rocking that Hutterite Mennonite beard. It's full.
So we have these scenes where like it kind of cuts in between like them making a movie and then they're filming scenes of the characters happening, and then they kind of remind you that, oh, you're watching a movie, which is something they actually kind of do in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at moments where it's like a full-on movie and then you get characters. Yeah, see? Meta filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the story just kind of proceeds. It has no interest in trying to make a seductive film experience, which why would you? Well, it reminds me of the idea of like latter-day Jean-Luc Godard movies that are like almost like, in some ways, like you could argue, if you're not a fan of this movie, it's ruined by the fact that it's like trying to be this like political film, and it's like not even trying to like operate as a film. I get it. It's like if you don't have any interest in this type of thing, it is not going to be for you. And so in that case, it's like, well, is this film a failure because it's not seductive enough? And like it would argue, well, yeah, we shouldn't have to be seductive. People should be coming to this and be challenged. Okay. Sure. I really have no strong dislike or like for these films. To me, they're just like cultural curiosities. Curious. Of like these movies, and I'm like, okay, I've watched them now, and I am prepared to move on with my life. But we'll continue talking about this. RJ, what did you think here of I Am Curious Yellow?
You're smirking a lot over there. Why do you think that is, Jarrett?
Oh, I couldn't imagine RJ Baylog being a fan of I Am Curious.
Is it because I don't understand metaphors?
No, no, I don't think this movie really takes in that
Is it
element
because
of
I'm made uncomfortable?
literary conventions.
Do you think it's because I get uncomfortable when I see genitals in any way, shape, or form? Or any kind of sexuality portrayed in any form?
Raw sexuality.
Raw sexuality. Am I a Quaker? I don't think so.
Quaker.
But those just,
Non-violence. You feel like a
oh no,
violent man.
who are those? Who are those dudes? Yeah, I'm super violent. Who are those people who didn't have
violent,
sex?
violent and sexually repressed, just like a good Catholic boy.
Good Catholic boy. That's exactly it. No, who were those purists that didn't have sex? But like, I thought those were Quakers. No,
They didn't last very long, did they?
yeah, the ones who didn't have sex and then none of them went forward.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyways, I'm more like along that line where it's just like, like, you know that Dave Chappelle skit where he's like, I just want to stick my penis through the hole. It's just like I sympathize with that because I also don't want to see penises on screen or vaginas or any genitalia for that matter. What am I talking about? Anyways, I am curious. Yellow. We're just talking about Yellow, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't into this.
Yeah.
I'm kind of indifferent like you are. Like, I didn't dislike this movie in any way, but I sure as hell didn't like it. I thought I'm with Roger Ebert, man. This thing's like a dog. This thing is
Dogs are awesome,
ruling.
though.
Not an actual dog. It's like a dog
The
of
figure of speech.
The figure of speech dog, not a literal dog. Yeah, because dogs are cool. No, it's just kind of like I found this thing to just be like that kind of auteur bullshit
Tedious?
where it's like film. Yeah, it's tedious, but it's like films about society, and it's like where I feel like there are movies that are commentaries about social or cultural things, and they use film as their like grounding point for it. Like, for example, Jarrett, Criterion movie, which we've covered already, 8.5. I feel like 8.5, and like I'm using this connection very loosely. I don't think these movies are related at all, but I'm just saying 8.5 is a movie about movies, and it's telling a story outside of it about Fellini and about the things that he was into and the things that he was feeling and his world. Where I feel like I Am Curious is a movie about making a movie about all these class, society, sexual exploration, and all these other things. And I felt like it was just too much stuff jammed into one thing. Like, the word of the day that you brought on me, and now I can't stop thinking about it, is it's disjunctive. Like, I feel like it's all over the fucking place because it like cuts between these interviewing parts where, like you said, you were a fan of those, where she's like talking to people about like caste systems and I don't know, all that like shit that was going on in Sweden. And then it also cuts to like the sexuality bits, like liberation and all that good junk. And you're like, okay, cool. But then you're also like, you get this like faux making of behind the scenes stuff. And I was just kind of like, I don't know if we need this. I don't know if you need this like through line of making the movie where it's like the actress and they're making the movie about the stuff they're doing, but she's also exploring and like discovering herself with the actors and the directors like on the other side of it. Yeah. I don't know. It honestly felt like too much shit for me where I was kind of like,
yeah,
they got too many irons in the fire here, Jarrett.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like, it's a potpourri of approaches because there's like these like it's always like wanting to like kind of remind you at times of the artifice of film and never like let you become comfortable or lulled, like kind of like the one moment in the film in Yellow that's like when the couple goes to the like lakeside shore and they're like hanging out and then she like but she knows about like another girl that he's seeing, and she calls her out on it, and they like kind of like go and start like fighting in the water, and they have this like moment of where like they're fighting, but then they're like really getting into each other too, and then they go back to the house and they're just like laying around, I guess parading around naked. And then she finds out that there's another girl that he hasn't been telling her about. And then when she comes to lay down after she's found out about it, he just like takes her, and they start
He
like
what, Jarrett?
he takes her, RJ, and
Okay.
they basically start hate fucking. And she starts
Ugh,
interrogating
ew.
him, and he's thrusting away when she's like, "What about her? What about this girl's name?" And you're like, "Oh, whoa, this is getting pretty weird." And then they start having like a domestic dispute, and then you're like getting into, you're like, "Whoa, this is getting serious." And then it cuts to like, oh,
The camera crew.
the camera crew who are like uncomfortably waiting outside for like, it's kind of a weird joke, like where like it's supposed to be there
Yeah.
to diffuse the scene and be like, "Oh yeah, hey folks, don't take it too seriously. You're watching a movie. You're watching actors." And they're like, the idea is that these actors are in their moment, and like the film crew have just like turned off the cameras, and now they're waiting outside while the fight resolves. But then it comes back and the fight's continuing on, and then he like also again takes her by force, and you're like,
Yeah.
and you're just like, what in the fuck? And then it kind of like it's like, but it's like there's obviously like pretty good like film practice going on in this. And there's like a moment in I'm Curious Blue, like this like amazing crane shot of like following her like leaving this apartment, going up this huge stairs, and then crossing this bridge, and it looks amazing, and you're like, holy crap, like that's like an amazing shot. But there's obviously no interest in telling like a conventional narrative, like something like The Immigrants or something like that, or how like One Car Wai makes a movie. Like
Sure.
there's no interest in making a smooth, polished product. This is a movie that's supposed to be like kind of frustrating and pushing your buttons and making you engage and think. Now, but the thing is though, is that a good time? Is that how people want to watch movies? No, and I think Vilgot Sjoman, he knows that. He knew that going in, and so he made this movie. And now this movie's gonna test your boundaries and be like, it's going to be putting things like in front of your face, like, hey, here's some sex, here's like real people,
Here's some sex.
here's some real people, here's some real Frank's depictions of that. But it's not even like, I wouldn't call it pornographic. It's kind of just like, oh yeah,
No.
that's what's going on. These people are just like, and it cuts away like almost every single time. It's where you're not like watching it be ground out or anything like that. But
Ugh, gross. Yeah, I agree with Ebert. It's like non-erotic.
yeah,
And like I think the biggest thing with this is just like the scandalous stuff. It's like, yeah, I guess like sure, maybe in 1967 showing like elements of sexuality on screen were like, whoa.
see, but you know what though? So I've read though that maybe those were like the superficial grounds that the movie was being seized on, but not so much that it's like extremely leftist in its politics. And there could have
that
been
makes
like
more sense.
there'd be objection to like, whoa, we don't want people thinking this, but it's like people were thinking this stuff. Like it's not like it was like, oh no, this movie's going to like set them off and it's going to push them over the edge. It's like there's nothing persuasive enough in the way that this movie's presented. It's far too, I don't know what to call it, smart, but it's like very academic. It's very intellectual,
Sure.
and that's not going to like grab people except for people who pretend to get it or are really into this type of thing. And people still make projects that are not unlike this, but nobody watches them. Like nobody cares about this stuff. I see this stuff all throughout the year, and I watch it and I go, this isn't that good. But it's like this movie's like 10 times better made. Like it's well photographed. I don't know, it actually has like some film chops to it, but at the end of the day, I'm never watching this thing again. I just like kind of like, oh yeah, I did that. I did it. I did a podcast once.
Once when you're on your deathbed, what are your regrets? Maybe I Am Curious. I don't know. Henry V, probably.
Got any notes here about Yellow?
About Yellow specifically?
Yeah.
I wrote down public incomprehension for some reason. That must have really stuck out with me. I think that was a funny term. But no, it's like I said, I feel like it's this auteur bullshit about like movies that like allegedly have this deeper connection. But I don't know. Like I don't think it's actually there. Like I feel like it's like I agree with you. I don't think it's like a dumb movie, but I think it's kind of superficial in a sense where it's just like we're gonna slap this like social commentary right beside the sexual stuff, and it's like, okay. And then even just like the marketing for it, it's like the way the movie starts, it's like, we
Oh,
are yellow,
or
we are blue, we are too.
the
Buy us
trailer,
both.
the trailer is incorporated into it. The critique of capitalism.
Yeah, and it like even that, I'm just like,
Yeah.
eh. So yeah, yellow is yellow. I gotta say, I think out of the two, I think I enjoyed blue more than yellow, but I don't know.
Really?
I think it had well, there's just lots of shots of people swimming naked in lakes, but never genitals. Never genitals.
Yeah,
See what I mean there, Jared?
I hear you.
I don't know. You take blue away.
Okay.
You go.
So, I Am Curious, blue. This is made the subsequent year, 68.
Yeah.
Tagline, look who's flying into the blue.
Into the blue?
Yeah.
It's a weird way to
The
put that.
same movie with the same characters, cast, and crew as I Am Curious Yellow, but with some different scenes and a different political slant. Bullshit. That's like absolutely no. This movie's it's a completely different movie. This is crap.
Yep.
The political focus in Blue is personal relationships, religion, prisons, and sex. Blue omits much of the class consciousness and non-violence interviews of the first version. Oh yes, there's all the stuff with the weird like Borat style Martin Luther King interview.
The Borat? Borat. I have a dream.
Well, it's not more Stephen Colbert, I guess. Like, or like he's like fake. I don't know. More like Weird Al, where it's like fake interviews.
Oh, who was
Because I don't
the
think
dude on Much Music? The doot 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 boop boop. You know that interviewer?
No. I remember Weird Al did this way back on LTV. Anyways, blue omits much of the class consciousness, non-violence interviews of the first version. Yellow and blue are the colors of the Swedish flag. Thanks. Garbage. No one's watched. No one who wrote that watched this movie. They just threw out some terms and going, "Hey, that's what this is about." So yeah, I watched this on the subsequent day, taking a break, and my focus was not on this movie entirely. It felt like just more of the same, and so it's like turning this like 2 hours was fine, but now we're heading into hours 3 and 4, and it's like not doing anything different. It's like it's got the same types of interviews, but with different people with different responses.
You know who is doing different interviews? Nardwar, the human serviette from Canadian
Narwhal.
Much Music.
Yeah.
Nardwar. Doot doot doot. It's a shave and a haircut song, Jared. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Talk about whatever you want to talk about. I just wanted to talk about Nardwar for a second.
Okay. So, blue. Yeah, this one I found even less essential than yellow. It's just more of the same and completely washed over me. Again, there's like these moments where it's like, oh, hey, we're constructing a film, and we're gonna zone in on these things. We're at parties, and then people see people from another time. They're like, oh, hey, don't talk about. Hey, let's not talk right now. We're having an affair. There's all this kind of like fake drama stuff that you're like, well, the whole movie's like dismissing this out of hand, and we're still going down this route. So like, what's the most effective use of our time in making our ideas come across to an audience? Like, what are we doing here making films? But we're going to do this. So it's very experimental stuff still. And I was like, yep, we had to experiment to figure out what stuck and what didn't stick. And I don't know. I was trying to think about examples of this filmmaking that gets shown in other things still to this day. But it's like, well, just make a documentary. Just make a movie and write your story clearly, coherently. But it's like, again, that's what they want you to think, man, because that's just facilitates the commerce, man. And I'm like, no, yeah, but that's what people want. People like storytelling. People like cohesion.
Yeah.
You can
keep going.
Oh yeah,
keep going.
Yeah. People want something to stick with them, and I mean, obviously, that we're now at a point in the monoculture where Disney Studios. Disney, whatever, Marvel Studios, they figured it out. They have every movie they make now makes $1 billion, and you don't even know it. Like, you don't know anybody who actually sees these movies because there's so many people now on the planet that like it doesn't even like making a movie billions. Like, well, that's pretty easy as long as you got the right like broadness to your movie. And I mean, those people like don't even know what I Am Curious is, and most of those people don't even know what the Criterion Collection is.
It's true.
And it's like, well, does that mean the Criterion Collection is like dismissed out of hand? No. So it's like, well, I'm curious. I don't know what that is, and it's about this particular thing. It's dismissed out of hand. Sure. I mean, this movie's not going to be for everybody, and I don't blame them at all. But I don't know. I just feel like there's a better way of doing, because like I agree with the politics of these movies personally, and I just don't know if this is the most persuasive argument to those politics. Because if it is, it's kind of like, oh, Jesus, maybe there's something wrong with the way that you're thinking. But I don't know. I think you can do. It could have been done better, but. RJ.
Sure, I mean, strong politics. No, I was just gonna say, when you're talking about like people trying to like mimic it today, kind of, or you were trying to think of examples. I think the only thing that would come close would be like maybe horror movies that aren't good. And the only thing that comes into mind would be like something like that Adam Wingard would make, which would be like not the Blair Witch remake that he made recently, but like that. And then like a little bit more where it's just like, and then you see the camera crew, but then the camera crew gets terrorized also. And it like, do you know what I mean? That's the only thing I could think of where it'd be like
a found footage movie.
But I don't think that any of those people are like fans of I Am Curious. I just,
no.
The only other thing that I could think of is that Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby movie that had your buddy James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain, where it was like, it was a romance movie, and one was just from her perspective, one was from his perspective, and then there was a third movie that was a mix between both, which was like the real story.
See, and that's kind of what I thought we were going to be getting with this split of yellow and blue too, based on the write-ups.
But it's horseshit.
It's total bullshit. It's like, no, this is like just different footage. Like, it's a completely different footage. And it's like, yeah, it's the same kind of gimmick and characters. And we got Vilgot still lurking in the shadows.
Vilgot the Destroyer?
Yeah, there he is. Beard intact. Mm-hmm. And we have Lena.
Nice.
Kind of
Dunham.
Finding trouble wherever she goes. Yep. Mixing it up. Having blowouts with that same dude. Scabbies, and
this one's got way more weird talk of scabbies.
Well, and there's like, okay, we gotta take a look at your penis now. We gotta clean yourself up and roll it around your body. There's lots of bodies. Are you afraid of the human body, RJ? Yes, you are.
No, not the body specifically. I just don't like the way genitalia are used.
As in how they hang off the body.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, bodies are fine. Like, what do you want to know about bodies? I know about, like, muscles and skeletal development. Like, I'll tell you whatever you want, man.
So, yeah. Any thoughts on Blue?
I thought it was really funny in Blue when they're, like, on that track and field pitch, and then that naked woman emerges, and then the guy sees her and then just runs away. I was like, hey, that's something I can relate to. Running away from nudity. I'm on board with that. I thought this movie was like, so it's like I said, I think Blue is like a little bit more enjoyable for me. I didn't really enjoy either of these. I also didn't dislike them, but Blue is also more gratuitous in the sense where it's like slapstick sexuality humor, like that tower scene where the tower is going up and down.
Oh,
I was watching that and I was just like squinting my eyes. I was like, what are they doing? What do they hope to achieve by this? Whatever it is, it's not working. So I was like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean, Jer? You know what I mean, Jer? And I feel like that was like, it's not working. That's a whole movie too. And then there's even these weird scenes where like, the one scene that I thought was really weird and out of place is when she gets picked up by those hitchhikers and they have like weird overt sexuality on display in front of her. And then she's talking and she's like, that was the best I felt in weeks. And then they drop me off. And then it just moves on and you're like, okay, so she's comfortable with like around other sexuality, but it's like, but who fucking cares? And like, that's the whole thing. It's like sexual liberation. It's like, yeah, I get it. I realize that a lot of people were oppressed for a long time about things like this.
And they still are.
Yeah, I know, but I think like, it was like I was saying earlier, I think this movie has like kind of a superficial approach to that, where it's just like, well, our girl is just gonna like fucking get out there and do what she feels, and it's like, is that needed, or can you like go about it a different way? I don't know. It's not how I would have made the movies, but my movie would just be a guy sitting in a chair in an empty room for 2 hours, and then it would just be like, it would just be like a subtitle popping up that just says like no genitalia. Oh, by the way, about subtitles, did you notice at a point in Yellow there's subs over burnt in subs, which I found off-putting.
There's nothing you can do about it, I guess.
There's nothing you can do about that.
Actually, after watching these movies, RJ, do you have any like strong feelings about Franco?
Who, Jess Franco?
Yeah, or James Franco?
Well,
or perhaps Francisco Franco.
So when that popped up, my first thought was Jess Franco, and then I was like, no, that's way too deep of a cut for these guys. And I was like, what about James Franco, or maybe even Dave? You know about Dave Franco, Jarrett? Do you know about him?
No.
No? Yeah, I have no opinion of Franco.
People didn't like him.
I don't even know who he is, so
that's kind of what I really figured.
Care. I know who Nardwar is.
He was only he ruled Spain.
Well, I don't live there, so
no. Well,
why do I need to know about it?
You're just like a very comfortable Swedish person who travels abroad to Spain, and it's like, I don't care what's happening in Spain.
No, I wouldn't.
There you go.
I mean, if you went to a different country, like say you went to Taiwan, would you care who the president was, or would you just be there to, eat some street food and hang out for like a couple days and then go home?
Well, RJ, I'm a person that currently doesn't travel to America by choice.
I said Taiwan.
Well, I'm just saying that I might look into things and be like, hey, is this an okay place? And I might go,
I don't know. I went to America last month. It was fine.
Yeah, I know.
Nothing changed.
You don't care.
No. Whatever. Who cares? Nothing matters. I mean, Jarrett, it doesn't matter who's in. Nothing's going to change. Know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Legalize it.
Do you remember that issue of Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, where Lois Lane becomes a black woman for a day to experience racism? And that was called I Am Curious Black.
Wow. When was that written? Like 1999?
A little earlier than that.
Oh. No, I don't remember that, but that's embarrassing for DC Comics. Oh, that sucks to be them.
Yep. Be there.
What other comic gossip do you got?
Gwen Stacy really wanted to go to that movie with Peter Parker. Do you think that would have changed everything if Peter Parker had gone to that movie with Gwen, and then he got woke and got radicalized and started wanting to smash the state?
I feel like Peter Parker would have been cutting a hole in the bottom of that popcorn and been like, "Hey, Gwen, check this shit out."
I mean, Spider-Man is about a man who shoots white sticky fluid out from his wrists.
Not what I meant at all. No. It's not what I meant at all. I wasn't mean.
He's a repressed weirdo.
I feel like Peter Parker wouldn't have cared about this movie, I don't think Gwen Stacy would have cared either.
I don't know, man. It was the hot picture of the time.
Allegedly.
Yeah. How do you feel about non-violence, RJ? To prove your point,
I feel like that's a made-up thing.
Is it?
Yeah, sure.
You should read a book sometime.
I don't read books. I don't even know how to read.
Stephen King.
No, I just audiobook it because I can't read.
He'll tell you about Black experience.
Wow. Actually, I mean, if you get
RJ can send you some
I can send pictures you some pictures of Stephen King.
His usage of language.
His vernacular is dated, I would say.
Yeah. Hey, anyways.
It's the characters.
You want to hear about some people who hate I Am Curiouses? Sure.
I mean, neither of us really care, so.
Zachary Kirkwood, half a star. Right. Pseudo-intelligent twaddle concerning the intersection of revolutionary politics and a young woman's burgeoning sexuality. It's bad,
Burgeoning.
but its cardinal sin is simple and damning. What do you think it is, RJ?
Sex?
It's boring, devoid of any dramatic substance. Stay away and keep your curiosity about this stinker in check. How is that, Gene Shalit?
Gene Shalit's kind of like Nardwuar a little bit.
A little bit.
So this guy was talking about boring, and he said a different word.
That's always like that's like the one of those great cliches of letterbox review types is like, and its greatest sin, of course, is it's boring. Like that's, I mean, everyone's probably said that sometimes to sound like smart, but it's not.
I mean, he's not smart either. All of his 5-star movies are just movies that you would expect, if you know what I mean. And his half-star movies, okay, so it's a lot of shit that is just like, why even rate that? Because it's dumb. But he has stuff like half-star movies. I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in Your House. Scott Pilgrim. That's not a half-star movie. I mean, I don't much care for the director, but Scott Pilgrim's a pretty terrific film. And Chuck and Larry. Chuck and Larry is a really good show. Chuck and Larry is a really good show, Jarrett.
Andy Patton of East Chicago, Indiana. 1 star.
Sure. Of course he is.
I don't care what the description to this movie says or how many professional linguists and film scholars go along with this mass hysteria, but this movie isn't really what they describe it to be. It's just routine of what they're all saying to be all over its nuts. Any boring thing can make the Criterion Collection as long as it's highly perverted. Then you have the task of voyeuring with the camera and capturing raw or real-life moments, the quirky, the odd, or bizarre. Things that don't make sense the better. A girl can hang from a tree limb upside down and shake her perky breasts, and that will be like a childhood memory in the minds of the judges that pick these films. It settles with them, the more boring the better. A mishmash of nonsense doesn't matter. This one has footage of Martin Luther King, but these movies are not social dissection of the Swedish caste system in any way. It's just like any episode of Michael Moore's TV show. He asked a bunch of questions, but some scenes were filmed around those intersegmented interviews.
Is that good? You know what's weird? This person just watched I Am Curious Yellow and Blue like a day ago.
I'm aware.
Which is very bizarre. They're like favorite films I don't really understand. There's Nightbreed, The Mist, Autopsy of Jane Doe, and then Bruno.
Highly perverted.
Which is like really weird. They have 0 5-star movies. But other 1-star movies are like Don't Look Now, Leaving Neverland. So this guy's a Michael Jackson supporter, maybe. And then like Barfly, 1 star. So very bizarre, Jarrett. Very bizarre from Andy Patton, East Chicago, Indiana.
Another Zach Dijkstra. This is for Blue.
Blue? Okay,
1 star. Some people say this movie makes no sense, but once you to understand is that every choice the filmmakers made was on service of their ultimate goal of annoying me. Then the whole thing really comes together on a thematic level. Boom! Boom!
Oh, that's so smart.
Back of the net.
Kobe. Was that their whole review?
Yep.
Hey, did you notice that that Andy Patton guy also has a 1-star review of Blue?
I did. I'm not
but we already covered him.
Yeah, nothing's going to top highly perverted.
Highly perverted. Zach Dijkstra's tastes are highly, highly perverted. I mean, 5-star films are just Criterion's, like Children of Paradise and Sweet Smell of Success, but also bad 5-star films: Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Hereditary, Call Me by Your Name, 5 stars. Let's have a look at 0 half-star reviews. Only 1-star reviews are for I Am Curious Blue, Sherlock Gnomes, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, and Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas from the year 2000, starring Canadian legend Jim Carrey.
I like that I Am Curious somehow in there. in the mix.
Somehow in the mix of these other fucking
Yeah.
movies.
See, I want to walk into a house and then you see like their DVD shelf and it's that's it.
Just that's it.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
And it's like I Am Curious Blue. Not yellow, just blue.
Not yellow. Oh, I only like blue.
Yeah.
It really speaks to me.
I really hated it, but I only own the movies I hate.
Ooh.
And then finally, Ben DeBono, who has popped up before.
Repeat offender.
He also is somehow doing a Criterion podcast somewhere or at some point anyway. But those don't
for
exist. Real? Yeah, I think so. 1 star. Both these movies feel like they were made by an edgy 14-year-old who read half a chapter of Richard Dawkins and are now out to educate the rest of us. The movies claim to be giving us a glimpse into Sweden. That's really not fair to Sweden. So I'm really not sure how Richard Dawkins fits into
any of that.
Anything is like
Richard Dawkins doesn't fit into any of that shit.
The biologist, the scientist, that guy. Oh, cool. Like
I don't
think there's a single mention of evolutionary science of any sort in the movie. But
hey,
I guess
Jarrett,
Richard Dawkins is a bad guy because he's an atheist and he talks a lot. So I guess this is more about axes to grind.
Hey, you know how you said I should read a book? Yeah. I read some Richard Dawkins. How do you like that shit?
Sure you are.
Ben DeBono gave La Dolce Vita 5 stars.
Yep.
And Hereditary 5 stars.
Yep.
And like, I don't know, Criterion movies. Mm-hmm. I'm going to, okay, wait. Half a star to Armageddon. Like it or not, Armageddon is not a half a star movie.
It's definitely not it's not in the bottom 5 of contrary to like Reddit people who like who ride the dick of Criterion, who think that's like a great insult that it's there. It's like, nah, it's dumb. Yeah. And it's easy to make fun of, but it's hardly one of the worst films that we've watched. Not even close.
Yeah, for sure. It's like that Armageddon is actually like the breaking point for me, where it's like anything over Armageddon I actually liked. Anything below Armageddon, it's like, So anyways, this person, Ben DeBono, is really questionable 1-star movies. Mission Impossible 2.
That movie's not
Curious. Good. Yeah, but it's weird. Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Mm-hmm. Both of the I Am Curiouses. Batman v Superman, the best movie ever. Indiana Jones, The Crystal Skull. That's not a 1-star movie. I know people are all hot to shit on that too, but I actually enjoyed it. But even regardless, I don't think it's 1 star. And then here's a real shitter. The Descent, 1 star. Seems bizarre. And then he gave your movie Super 1.5 stars. Hanny Calder 1.5 stars. Why? What's wrong with Hanny Calder?
Maybe it's a little too rapey.
Yeah, some movies are. What are you going to do?
Good thing we don't have to worry about that on the Criterion Creeps podcast.
There's a lot of raping over here.
Oh, is there? Oh.
Well, on your end of the...
No.
Whoa, Last Temptation of Christ, 2 stars. What the fuck? Hard Boiled and Black Orpheus, 2 stars? Whoever this Ben DeBono guy is, he's not a good guy. Whatever his Criterion podcast is, I would not want to listen to that one. But there aren't any others that exist, right?
That's correct.
Correct.
Hey, you got any more? You got any thoughts here? Any conclusions on this? I'm curious. No, nothing.
Nah.
What happens when you mix yellow with blue?
Who gives a shit?
It's green. It's not
what are the primary colors?
RJ.
Huh?
The primary color is black because that's the color of my heart.
Wow.
That's gonna be my Letterboxd review for something one day.
You're such an edgelord, Jarrett.
For maybe Primary Colors starring John Travolta.
Is that like that Moose movie that he's in?
Yeah, just like directed by Fred Durst.
Moose.
That movie looks awful.
Awfully good.
And here it is. And here's our chatter on YouTube forever.
What, Moose? Yeah. We're gonna watch it when it comes out.
Ugh.
Yeah.
After the break, we're getting our genitals scrubbed.
Ew. That's it. Ew.
Use a condom, RJ, for Christ's sake.
Ugh.
The penis sheath.
An old sheepskin.
Why are you scraping your tongue?
Because you disgust me so much, my tongue